Good morning and welcome to Saturday. Here we go into the weekend, day number 6, and we're jumping right into a meditation on the hard sayings of Jesus. And this is a happy thought, but today we're looking at I took control away. And now I gave it back. Let's go here. There we go. I'm going to check here. Okay, now it's working. So, little technical issue. We're going to go with the happy thought of fool. Notice that's in quotes. And the fires of hell. Jesus is dealing with this horizontal relationship with brothers and sisters and how we rationalize, categorize, and dismiss them from our thinking. This is the root. He's getting at the root of something. And so we would maybe at first blush wonder if we were in the crowd that day, or if we were the teachers of the law, why is he sidetracking into this? This is a problem. But we have vertical relationship, and you can argue that the first 5 commandments are one of vertical relationship. The Lord is the first 4, and parents is number 5. So it's a vertical relationship, one of esteem for creators, because our mother and our father are instrumental in our creation. So mom and dad got together, and as a result, here we are. So it is a creative act or co-creative act, co-conspiring, co-operating with the divine order. So we have the first 5 of the 10, the Decalogue, are vertical, and then the next 5 are horizontal. And so when you get to commandment number 6, you're moving into the first commandment on the second page, which is having to do with humanity, with those around us. And so Jesus digs into this idea of murder. Yesterday we looked at how murder begins in the heart and in relationship, and we saw it in Cain and Abel. And we see the counseling of God given to the free moral agent Cain, recommending heavily against his course of action, and yet Cain persisted in disobedience to God and in reducing his brother Abel to less than nothing, less than a thing, and then by rationalizing him to less than, taking his life. So now we go into this idea of calling somebody a fool. So Jesus says, again, and if he's repeating himself, it's for emphasis, it's underlining, it's underscoring, it's highlighting. Again, anyone who says to a brother or sister, Raka, is answerable to the court. And anyone who says, you fool, will be in danger of the fire of hell. Now, this seems contradictory, since Jesus himself would say that people were foolish. He talks about the foolish man. Now, this is the idea of somebody who knows the ways of God versus someone who doesn't know the way of God. This word that is used here is evidently, contextually looking at it and what Jesus is saying, this is not a slight thing. This is a human rationalization of esteeming a fellow human being as less than human, and then speaking that to them and in relationship to them, and sharing that idea with other people. And what Jesus says is anybody who says that of a brother or sister is answerable to the court. So there's like 2 levels of problem. One is, it seems that he's talking about the court of heaven. He's talking about the court ultimately of heaven, perhaps there was some sort of answer within the Levitical court, but there's certainly a court of heaven that is needing an answer to be brought on that. And anyone who says, you fool, and this seems to be even more. So this evidently was a word that was used, possibly in Aramaic, and known amongst those in Galilee as the worst slang and slander against a human being that could be imagined. And he says that they will be in danger of the fire of hell. Why? Because they're playing with fire, they're playing with the spirit of murder. Murder begins with a categorical reduction of people, where we put them in a category and count them as a thing or less than a thing, as not valuable, and then we destroy them. It can be easily argued that this is done with the spirit of abortion, by taking a human being that is invisible to the physical eye because it is hidden away, tucked away, developing in the womb of his or her mother, and because they are out of sight, they tend to be out of mind. And then we can use words like product of pregnancy, product of insemination, lump of cells, or fetus. And when we use words like that, we're actually categorically putting them in another place than using the word infant or baby. So when we do that, we're starting down the road of using the word rakah. But when we say it is nothing, it is not human, it is not worthy of consideration, it has no standing, no consideration, it is outside of the category of life and consideration, now we've moved into the words, you fool. And when that happens, we're in danger of the fire of hell. So Jesus is making an application here on commandment number 6, and he is now connecting the idea not to merely the letter of the law, but he is talking about the spirit of the law. And it begins to apply to how we regard people right here. Some would say right here, and they would point 18 inches away to the heart. Well, it begins with a thought. It begins with a categorical distinction. It begins with verbiage, with wording. And then it ends up in behavior and action. Jesus is alerting them to where they can deal with the spirit of murder. God attempted to deal with Cain with the spirit of murder, and he would not hear it. So he eventuated and ultimately killed his brother and carried out that murder. So, big thought for today. Where are we finding it easy to use that word rakah, or you fool? I think some have said that word was more. How do we use language and how do we think about people and easily put them in a category of non-human and less than human? We learn to do this in nursery school. We learn to do this fresh out of the womb. This is second nature. I would say we probably don't even learn to do it. Can you imagine if a 2 or 3-year-old had the power of taking life? Fortunately, they're weak. They would do it. They would lash out, not knowing all of their actions, but in their fury and their anger, they would do things. But fortunately, they are supported by society and family, which intervenes and takes their anger and blunts it and corrects it. Jesus is speaking this to that crowd and to his disciples, and he's speaking it to us today. Where do we find it easy to use those words or those terms that would be categorized as rakah and more, you fool? And it's at that point that we're in danger. We're in danger. So, think about that today. Let that soak down into your spirit on this Saturday. And we realize that we're moving into a new and better covenant, and it requires far more from us than the old covenant, the first covenant, the Mosaic covenant ever did. A righteousness exceeding that of the Pharisees and teachers of the law. With that, I want to say the Lord bless you, keep you, cause His face to shine upon you. May His grace and peace be upon you as you consider this today, and we'll see you tomorrow.